Hi, welcome to Positive Behavior's Parent Lecture Series. Today we're going to talk about the functions of behavior. When we talk about function of behavior, we really are looking at what happens after the behavior occurs. What is the reinforcer that's maintaining this behavior? The first function we're going to talk about is escape avoidance. There are times where the environment signals to a child that something's about to happen. It could be something that's not preferred, you're terminating an activity, you're going to ask them to do something, or you're going to ask them to eat broccoli for dinner. Always keep in mind that if you make a task or demand that's too difficult for them, your child's probably going to engage in behavior to escape or avoid it. The next function we're going to talk about is sensory. Your child might seek out experiences that affect their 5 senses. It feels good to them, so they're going to continue to engage in this behavior. Additionally, it's also known as automatic reinforcement. They don't need anyone to help them in order to feel good. The next function we're going to talk about is access. This is a behavior that's maintained by access to any of the following: items, foods, toys, activities, places, or even people. Another function is attention. Remember, this is socially mediated, meaning another person is required in order to gain access to that reinforcer. It is also important to remember that negative or positive statements can be reinforcing to that child. Now, glances and eye contact are also reinforcing. You can make direct eye contact or give a fleeting glance. An important function to talk about is pain reduction, also known as pain attenuation. Sometimes our children will engage in problem behaviors because they're uncomfortable or in pain. So it's very important to rule out the other functions and then think about talking to your dentist or pediatrician. They might have a toothache or a headache that needs to be addressed. A condition that everyone's talking about these days is control. When we think about control, it's something that happens inside of your mind. It's intrinsic, so it's not something we can really evaluate or take data on. So what you should look for is the other functions. Your child is trying to control the conditions around him. They're trying to create preferred or favorable conditions, and these are controlled by any of the 4 known functions. We've talked about this before, but we're going to talk about it again. 3-term contingency, or the ABCs of behavior. Remember, A, B, C. This is your function. It is a reinforcer that's going to maintain your behavior. So let's look at these 2 examples. Now remember, A, B, C. You've asked your child to clean up their toys. They begin to cry. You help them clean up, and they did not clean up themselves. What they've learned here from this reinforcer is that if they cry in the presence of this antecedent, that they're likely not going to have to clean up, and you're going to help them out. Don't worry, if this sounds like you, it's not a problem. Now you know why they're doing this, and you can help them the next time you ask them to clean up so that they're not upset and they will be successful. Another example is, there's a sparkly toy. Your child jumps up and down instead of playing with this toy appropriately. The toy was not removed, nor was any help provided for them to play with that toy appropriately. Once you've identified this function, it's so easy to go ahead and provide that assistance so that they're successful with a new behavior. So now that we've talked about function, let's talk about the treatment plan. Your treatment plan will have a number of components, but this is particularly important. We will be able to identify the function of that behavior, meaning now we know how to develop a plan around that function. It's going to outline an action plan. How are we going to address this plan? It should be fully written out for you to understand. We're going to stop reinforcing old problem behaviors, and that is called extinction. We're no longer going to give it that reinforcement, so that behavior should slowly die out. We're going to teach new skills. This is very important. When I take away the reinforcer for behavior, I should be teaching them a skill that can help them access that reinforcer later on. Now, we talked about that learned skills will help them access reinforcement. This is very important. If your child hasn't learned an appropriate way to access that reinforcer, they're going to develop another behavior, a problem behavior, in order to continue accessing that reinforcer, which is why it's so important that as you reduce one behavior, you teach a new one. Let's talk about ABCs one more time. We're going to place our behavior on extinction. So let's look at it again. Clean up led to crying, which led to escape. But now when we say clean up and the child cries, we're no longer going to allow escape. But in order to do this successfully, we have to teach something. So here we have clean up with help. Your child cleans up, you say hooray plus tickles. Another option is to teach them how to vocalize help. So you ask them to clean up, and now they can say, help me, and you can reinforce in the same way. Hooray, maybe a high five, whatever you think they want to work for. And now we talked about appropriate escape. Now, that looks like this. Clean up, the child says, later please. You say okay, and now they've escaped appropriately. And this is important because you want them to learn an appropriate way to gain access to that reinforcer that was previously reinforcing a problem behavior. We hope this has been helpful. Feel free to reach out to us on Facebook or our website. Until next time.